Welcome to the Money Watch Show. It's Tuesday, October 29th, and we are here trying to help you make better financial decisions, maybe less bad ones. And sometimes I would say that I am generally a gentle nudge. And I am Jill Schlesinger, CBS News business analyst, and I'm joined by Mark Talercio, the executive producer of this program, you're not as much of a nudge as I am, are you? I play that role in this relationship. I nudge people, don't I?
You are the nudger. Because
I think you are one of those people who believes that if you give people the right amount of information, they'll do the right thing. Is that what this is about?
I don't even think that's it. It's just like, you give them the information, whether they choose to act on it, it's up to them. You can only do your part.
Oh, boy.
That's kind of my mentality.
Now you know why I had to get out of the financial planning and investment management business, because I think I take on too much of the responsibility for people. I think that you have a healthier attitude. I have the attitude of, oh my God, they're not doing this. How can I help them to get it done? And what the get it done we're talking about right now is estate planning, because last week was National Estate Planning Awareness Week. And we didn't really talk about it on this show because we were doing some other stuff. But we often will get people who come onto the program. They go to jillonmoney.com. They click the contact us button. They write us notes and we get them on the air with us and we're talking to them. And Mark, isn't it still shocking how many people, when I say, okay, so you have your estate documents done, and then there's a pause.
I feel like there's been an improvement, though. It seems like nowadays more people do versus don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, so right now we actually have like an interesting intersection of two things that are going on in the moment, which is estate planning, but also benefits enrollment. A lot of companies, big companies, and even some nonprofits, I see that they are offering legal services as a benefit to many employees. And so if you thought, well, why would I ever need that? Here's a good reason for this coming plan year to sign up for your legal services that can help you with your estate planning, because that'll give you the nudge factor, because I paid for it. I might as well do it. Right. And so that's really important. Again, we have so many people on this show who don't come on the air with us. I think the ones who come on the air know that I'm going to ask them. So therefore, they are a bit more prepared. And so I get it. All of this is important. All of this is a nudge. Let's do this. I was on the air last week with my friends Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel on CBS Mornings, and we did a segment about estate planning. We didn't get to some of the other pieces of the process that I think we should talk about. So let's, Mark, play the segment, and then we'll come back around and talk more about estate planning in general.
In today's Money Watch, we are covering a difficult but very important topic, estate planning, aka what happens to your stuff when you die. The number of Americans with a will laying out those details has decreased by 6.6 percentage points from last year, even though a majority of people still say, yeah, having a will is important. Make it a priority then, people. CBS business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here with what you need to know to get going. All right, Jill. So this is a lot of hard conversations and hard thinking for people to go through. How do they start?
Look, I know that this is hard. This is emotional. It's like the trifecta of bad things. You have to talk about death, illness, and money all together. But if you don't do it, there are bad things that can occur. And we want you to understand that this is about your wishes. So having these conversations, you can start by saying, hey, Mom, Dad, I saw this amazing segment on CBS Mornings Plus.
Use me as an example.
And use me as an example. Or you might even be able to say, hey, we did our own estate plan. How do we do this? Or if you're having a hard time with a sibling or an adult child, talk about your own experience and talk about how doing this, having some actual proactive thinking around this topic, gives you control about a thing that you are so out of control over.
What's your advice for parents or older Americans who might be concerned about doing this because they don't want to create conflict among their descendants, their kids who might be fighting over stuff or saying, so-and-so's a healthcare proxy, what about me? Asking for a friend.
Oh, yeah. Asking for a friend. So here's what you need to know. Not doing anything, that's the cause of the conflict. That is what actually brings families to their knees. So what you want to do is have open and honest conversations. You want to communicate your plan. And you really want to be able to say, hey, you know what? Tony, you're the guy who's going to be able to actually execute my wishes. Not everybody's going to be able to pull my plug. You're the one who's going to do that. Adriana, you're the organized one. I want you to be the person who's the executor. And not everything has to be even Steven. You have to create documents that reflect your wishes, but also understand who these people are in your family and what roles they can provide.
For a lot of people, the idea of having an estate, they're like, I don't have an estate, I don't have horses. What are you talking about?
Right.
So they don't have a lot of money to throw at this problem, and they may not think they have a problem in the first place. How do they start and do it cheaply?
Well, first of all, you only need 3 documents. A will is basically, here's what happens to my stuff when I die, and this is to whom it goes. If you have minor children in the planning process, you're going to name a guardian. This is vitally important.
Right.
Can you imagine if you don't do this, then the state decides where your stuff goes and where your kids
Yikes.
go. Okay, next. You have a durable power of attorney and you have a healthcare proxy. And these documents are very easy. A durable power of attorney is someone's going to act as my agent to conduct business things. This can be responding to a IRS inquiry. It could be taking money out of the bank. A healthcare proxy is assigning someone the right to make a healthcare decision on your behalf if you're not able to do so. So people get freaked out. Why should I go to a big, expensive estate attorney? Don't. Fine.
Okay.
Go online. Get the documents done. But if there are any complications in your life, a second marriage, maybe you've got a small business, maybe there is a child who is a special needs child who will need a separate kind of arrangement, you must go to an attorney. And please, gang, I know it is money, but it is so important. If you die without a will, this causes havoc in a family. This is a problem. I just settled 2 estates in the last 2 years for a friend and for my mother-in-law. One was all tidy and perfect. The other one, not so much. The not so much one, it caused a lot of pain, a lot of work. And you know what? It was like a year and a half later, I was like, oh, maybe I'll actually have time to grieve for my friend because now I've stopped actually settling the estate. So get this done. Okay, so Mark Talercio, greatest executive producer in the whole wide world. What was hard about doing estate planning for you? You're a young family. Was it weird? Was it hard? Were there any hurdles for you?
No, there were no real hurdles. I think and it's kind of what we hear most often from our listeners is, at the time we had a newborn. So it's like, all right, who's going to do guardianship? And it's like, there's really no options on Amanda's side because not a lot of family here.
Right.
And me, my family is way upstate. We had some local friends here in the city, but didn't think that they would probably be up to it, God forbid. So ultimately, we went with my sister.
Oh, my God. I didn't know that. I'm not that. You should change that to me. At least I'm in the city. Like, okay. Seriously, let's have a conversation about this because there is an issue, which is number one, do you think you really want her to raise Theo up in Yehopitzville where she lives?
Well, that's my only reservation. Like I have confidence in her to, raise him and keep him on the, on the right track, so to speak. But the idea of him actually being raised up there where they live, that part is like so not appealing to me. But, you just God forbid if it ever came to that, that's what we went with. And I think we just, hope that it never comes to that.
What about those nice guys who live downtown?
We considered them, but I just don't think that they would be up for raising another young child.
All right. Well, Jackie and I are maybe throwing our hat in the ring, at least for a little bit. Wouldn't that be amazing? The big thing would he had to move from Brooklyn to the Upper West Side.
At least he's still in New York City.
Exactly. So listen. We are asking you to contemplate illness, death, money. These are hard things. And so, besides the will and the healthcare proxy and the power of attorney, I am very clear that many people are still kind of worried about like what happens if I don't do this. And we talked about, dying intestate. A lot of people followed up with me, Mark, after the segment ran on television with a very interesting question, which in various ways it was asked. It was basically what happens to your debt when you die? And so this is an interesting question that we didn't cover because generally the way that estate planning works is actually structured around debt in many ways. In other words, there is a will that gets probated with the estate, with the state rather of residence. And you have assets, but this is the moment where anyone who is owed money from you or your estate can put a claim in and say, hey, Mark just died. He owes me $50,000. And so when you die with debt, it does not go away. Your estate is responsible for paying any unpaid debts. So, it's the assets are on one side, then there's liability. Now, by the way, if there's no money left and everything is basically the estate is kind of broke, well, yeah, that's true. Then the debt gets kind of wiped away. If there is a shared debt or a co-signed debt, think like a mortgage or a credit card, then the debt has got to be paid by the person who is named on that obligation. Okay. Mark, we often get a question about online estate planning resources. What do you think about that?
I mean, if the alternative is doing nothing, then it's better than the alternative.
Yeah. And, LegalZoom, which does a lot of advertising, is still out there. It's fine. Trust and Will is one. There's one called Good Trust, and there's one called Rocket Lawyer. Now, the thing is, some of these, there are fees, and you have lawyers that are going to guide you. Others are just software. But if there are any complications, you really should go to a lawyer for real. Okay. The other thing I would really think is important after settling the estate for a couple different people is choose your executor carefully. Mark, I'm happy to be your executor. That's one thing I'll happily do, only for you. I said I would never do it for a non-family member again, but for you, I would. There is nothing very hard about this, but it takes time, it takes patience, and boy, you have got to be organized. Very important. Also, when you're thinking about estate planning, I would get very anxious if I thought this was a one and done thing. Like you must make this decision forever and ever, but it's not. Estate planning is a process. It's not an event. The documents, they live, they breathe, they can be updated, they can be amended. And so knowing this really should help you prioritize getting something done over making it perfect. A lot of people are uptight about starting the process. And maybe that would be a question to an older relative. Like if you have parents who are aging and you want to check in with them and they say like, it's none of your business. Okay, that kind of shuts it down. But if you have parents who are willing to chat a little bit and you can basically say one of the nicest things about conducting this estate planning process is your wishes will be met. You will actually have control. And maybe the best way to think about it also is to try to break the ice with some questions like, when you think about it, what would you like to accomplish? Do you want to make sure that the next generation has gets some money? Are you worried that one of your heirs will squander money that is left to them? Do you want to be charitable? Again, the idea around estate planning is that you revisit the estate plan every few years or when your life circumstances change. So listen, if you've got questions about estate planning or anything else in your financial life, please go to jillonmoney.com, click the contact us button, write us a note. And if you'd like to join us on the air live, check the box. Maybe we could do, Mark, like an emergency intervention where we can convince somebody who doesn't care about the estate planning process. Maybe we can help them. Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. We're also here to get you to sign up for the free weekly newsletter, which comes out every Friday, which is great. And also our service called Jill on Money Live for $35. You have access to quarterly live webinars and the back catalog and bonus videos. And our upcoming exciting webinar is about year-end planning, tax loss harvesting on Thursday, November 14th at 7 p.m. All right, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Mark Talercio is the co-host and executive producer and king of all things web. We are distributed by Paramount Global. We drop our episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays. Please lift someone up. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
Paramount Podcasts.